Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Australia. A very happy Thursday morning to you. I'm thrilled to say my lead guest this morning is Julian Lennon, which is just terrific. A brand new album out, a single from Same, and the material, as I was just saying to Julian off air, is just terrific. It's a great sound. You must be very pleased with the
result. Very happy with this, absolutely.
It's nice to have you back in Australia.
Thank you very much.
We're back with you in just a few moments' time. Julian Lennon, lead guest for also on this morning show. Tony Topman is going to homecraft for us. It's a great pleasure to have with us this morning Julian Lennon. Welcome him back to Australia and indeed back to Good Morning Australia. Julian, welcome.
Very much.
I heard on radio earlier this week they were promoting the fact that you were going to be on their radio show, and they said to talk about the life and times of Julian Lennon,
right.
With and without John. And the thought went through my mind that basically most of your life has been without.
Very true indeed. Yeah, I mean, he sort of walked out the door at 4 or 5 years old, really. So, and then my stepfather Roberto came along and sort of took his place immediately. And you know, the guy Roberto, who I dedicated the album to, my stepfather, really came in as a real father figure for me. You know, he's the one that took me to school, took me on holidays, you know, took me to the movies, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was. I just felt it was necessary to recognise that fact and let other people know.
Which is lovely, and maybe the spirit of that sort of feeling has come through on the album, because, as I say, the material is just terrific. You moved away for a fair while. Did you just feel that you needed a breather? I mean, when I say a fair while, we're talking 5, 6 years.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a necessary thing to do. I just felt very much that after being on the sort of music industry treadmill for over 10 years and just doing the same thing in a very pressured environment, it wasn't relaxed at all. And I had very, excuse me, very little control over what was going on. And too many broken promises and lack of support, I felt. Not here, but in other areas, especially America. And so
What, record companies? And
yeah, record companies and managers. So it was time to get out of all those contracts, get out of everything, and actually live and breathe a little bit. Because, I mean, I went into the industry at 20 years old, and I'd literally not been outside of it all that time. So this was the first time in my adult life that I was living outside of the industry and figuring out who I was outside of the business, you know. And it was time to reflect and look at what I was going to do in the future and resolve many problems, not only on a personal level, but a professional level too, in order to find some semblance of balance in life, you know.
What sort of personal problems? The ones that we all face?
I was extremely shy in the past, and my only way of expression was through music. And, you know, in order to find some balance, you have to be able to speak out, you have to be able to say how you feel. In order to say, you know, yes, I will do this or I won't do this. You know, before I was very aware of what was going on with management and record companies, but I never had the voice really or the strength inside to say, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
I think especially the fact that you mentioned that you were shy. Now, I don't want to put words into the wrong person's mouth, but I think it was Olivia Newton-John who said to me, she was singing your praises. Do you know Olivia reasonably well?
No, I've met her once or twice, but...
Well, it was someone of that ilk anyway,
yes,
who said to me that apart from anything else, apart from your talent, you are a desperately shy person, and you might have been shy anyway, regardless of who happened to be your natural father.
Exactly.
I guess it's hard to imagine, you know, what it would be like to be the Pope, be the Queen of England. It's especially hard to imagine what it would be like to be someone like yourself who was born to a father who was a member of a group that really changed the face of music. Was there one specific age when you realised that life was going to be very different for you compared to other kids?
I think that actually started in school because my mother, Cynthia, moved around so much. I would be going to new schools, you know, yearly, basically. And to be introduced at assembly on the new day of a new school as the son of John Lennon from the Beatles, I mean, even at that point, trying to find friends and trusting people, you know, was very, very difficult, you know.
You see, Of all the Beatles too, we're talking about the legendary one, which I think was actually happening before he died. He just stood out from that group in terms of being such a highly individual person. It must have been, even though he wasn't in your life, it must have been a huge shadow. I don't mean just for you to live with, but to recognise the fact that you're of his blood.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, as far as the shadow is concerned, I think that was much more created by the sort of the media and the critics out there. For me, my interest had always been in music and always trying to do the best job I could. It's only obviously when you release material that the comparisons come up, and I just felt they were very unfair in the early days, especially because what they were doing with my work was comparing a single album of mine or two albums to the Beatles catalogue.
Yeah.
You know, and so in that respect it had been a tough road, but the only way forward that I could see is just to get my head down and get on with the work and do the best job I could, you know.
You on the phone every hour to Yoko?
I wouldn't say that by any means, no.
How does the relationship stand at the moment?
It's distant. It's distant, you know.
Was it always meant to be that way, I guess?
I don't know what it was meant to be. I think she likes to feel that we're sort of part of one big happy family, but that's certainly not the case by any standards. I mean, I'm very unhappy about the way she's handled Dad's memory. I'm very unhappy about the fact that she sold a lot of his belongings off to auction, you know.
Which is so hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's been basically nothing handed down to me, and the money that I did settle with is going back into buying his belongings back into the family again, you know, not only for me, but for my kids in the future as well, so that they can have part of their heritage, you know, and I think it's disgusting, you know.
So if she had her way, none of that stuff would have happened. It would have just gone to
well,
strangers,
I mean,
basically.
she has had her way, and that's why I've had to go out and buy back, you know, things that belong to him.
What was her explanation to you? Did she bother giving you one?
Well, apparently, well, the old one was that the fact that in America there's death tax, and apparently the estate did not have enough money to pay the death tax, so she had to sell off some of his belongings.
Do you believe that?
Not particularly.
Do you think perhaps there's a situation there where, I mean, against great odds, you came out with your own music, and you were successful, and the sort of stuff that you were doing, it would have been successful whether your name was Lennon or not. Do you feel in some ways that because she tried too, and she's not here to defend us at the moment, but it didn't work for her, so there could be a strange sort of jealousy?
Well, I definitely feel that I'm a thorn of sorts in her side.
Do you enjoy being that thorn?
Occasionally.
So
I just went #1 in Japan, so I'm really happy about that.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is, I guess, if you're in her shoes, I suppose there's a certain amount that you can understand, but it's rather strange when you are talking about an object that is the means of jealousy, and that person is your husband's son. I mean, it's not as if you're some Johnny-come-lately who's just hit
No,
the scene.
absolutely not. No. You know, it's a very weird situation, but again, I think how she's gone about things, even in promoting what she does, has always been related one way or another to Dad's work, and I think that's wrong. You know, although they did do work together to a degree, but it's, you know, if she wants to prove herself, she's got to do it in her own right.
Does she have a relationship now that you know?
As far as I know, yes. Yes.
Do you approve of him?
It's not my place to approve or not approve.
Not important to you?
No, not important at all.
Let's talk about this album, because so much has gone into it. The wait has been long for us, certainly. I guess, as you say, you had to do it for yourself.
Yes.
But the music is phenomenal. Where's it come from? What sort of inspirations do you think?
Well,
as we roll that particular piece?
Yeah, that particular piece. Well, I mean, that particular song was written specifically for, you know, many of the critics and the fans had always said, well, when are you going to cover a Beatles song? Or you sound so much like the Beatles or like your dad. And I always sort of shied away from that. But after I'd written the rest of the material for the album and sort of proved my own self-worth as a writer to myself, I decided to throw this back at them. It's sort of tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah, but I've got to say, though, musically and also for the vision, too, a very brave attempt, which has come off, because if it didn't come off, it was going to be the end of the world in some way.
There's a couple of unhappy, serious Beatle fans out there about it, but I think, you know, they fail to realise, or they forget, the fact that these guys, the Beatles themselves, always used to have fun, always took the mickey out of themselves.
Exactly.
Never took it seriously, in a sense, in the early days. And you know, I think the idea of the icon is a little too much. I think, yes, they did some incredible work, and they should be highly respected, but it all becomes too precious sometimes, and it's unnecessary, because that's not really the case, you know.
With you, Paul comes out of this very well. He obviously was pretty special. He was your Uncle Paul.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, it definitely extended family. Paul always sends me cards at Christmas and on my birthday as well. So he's a very dear man, very sweet man indeed, yeah.
Is it possible, with the problems they had, your father and Paul, that given all the information, given all the situation, that perhaps your vote would have been with Paul?
I don't know. I can't say, because I wasn't really there, you know.
But do you wish that your dad had been like Paul in terms of relationship with yourself?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's difficult. I mean, because although Paul was in that situation, I mean, I still got cards from Dad, but the relationship was about the same. I mean, it's only in recent years that Paul and I have actually sort of become friends on a one-to-one basis. Yeah, so I mean, before it was, well, obviously you've got to look at the fact that it's very difficult for him too. Looking at the son of one of his best friends who's not around anymore, you know, it's a difficult situation.
You happy?
I'm very happy at the moment, probably the happiest in my life so far, yeah.
Well, given what you've talked about this morning and also what we've read many times over the years, you deserve it, but you've obviously worked for that happiness too.
I've battled for it, yes, but, you know, it's really been the past couple of years that has switched gears for me. I mean, you know, we're all dealt a certain hand in our lives, and I felt I've had a bit of a tough time, but I finally feel like I'm starting to win some aces and putting some good hands on the table, and this is just the beginning as far as I'm concerned.
It's a pretty good beginning. Thanks for being with us this morning. You're going to sing for us a little later on.
Yeah, sure.
Meantime, it's just a pleasure to see you, Julian.
My
Thanks
pleasure.
for coming in.
My pleasure.
Julian Lennon. And right after this break, Maggie Beer is going to be with us, and she's going to cook up a storm over yonder. Let's go over and say hello to Maggie. Like to come over and say hello, Julian? I'm sure Maggie would love to meet you. Maggie, a good friend of mine, Julian Lennon. Maggie Beer.
Delighted to
Maggie,
meet you.
pleasure to meet you. I actually love cooking, so I'm going to be watching very closely here.
What are you going to cook for us this morning?
I'm going to cook some flatbread and just have it with a lovely vinaigrette and some prosciutto and Parmigiano. Very simple stuff.
Sounds very good.
Yes, sounds wonderful, doesn't it? That happens right after this break. Again, we thank Julian for being with us.
Thank you.
There's so much ahead for Julian Lennon, and for us there's a couple of minutes of real enjoyment coming up now as he does the first single from his new album. There's a beautiful little photograph there too, which I meant to show before. Great to have Julian back in Australia, and backed by Matt Backer, who's travelling with Julian. Here's Julian Lennon and the single, I Don't Want to Know.
I don't want to know what's going on. I don't want to know what's right or wrong. I don't want to know whose bed you're in. I don't want to know just where you've been. Oh, baby, you were never really good for me. Just baby, you're a stranger to reality. And baby, don't you know you haven't got a clue? 'Cause lately, I don't know what to do. strong as you thought somehow. And maybe you know you're heading down a one-way track. And baby, I won't bring you back. Well, you said you were looking for a better way, but you just keep coming back to a place you could never seem to get away, that will always hold you back, 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 back. Against the whole wide world. And baby, you found the love that you could hold on to. And baby, I pray for you, 'cause I don't wanna know what's going on. I don't wanna know what's right or wrong. I don't wanna know whose bed you're in. I don't wanna know just where you've been, 'cause I don't wanna know what's going on. I don't wanna know what's right or wrong. I don't wanna know whose bed you're in. I don't wanna know just where you've been. Oh baby, oh baby.
It's a great song, isn't it? And that's just one on this fabulous album by Julian. And as he mentioned to us, there's a photograph there, just to the left, because the album is dedicated to Roberto and his stepdad in loving memory. And it's been a pleasure to have Julian with us this morning. We thank him for his time.
Thank you very much.
Also to Matt Baker.